Okay, so for the last 2 months or so, I've been working on this game. This is a resource management game based. So far, I've created hexagon tiles and a simple menu interface. Next, I want to get into the core gameplay. My idea for the game is for each tile to have a unique type. So at the start of the game, the tiles will either be mountain, forest, wheat, or empty. To start, I'll give the tile prefab some text, and through the tile script, we'll display its value. I'll use the method onStart to randomly set the tile type, but eventually I'll need these types to persist between games. We can create a saving and loading system for tile script attributes using Unity's built-in player pref functionality. When we click delete save, the stored values are deleted. The next thing that I decided to improve was the water. I'd like it to appear much farther away, but at this scale, that many polygons being updated every frame caused Unity to crash. For the new water, I'll use an image as a base map for the material. I'll need to change my pipeline settings to universal render pipeline. With the new pipeline settings, I'm able to design a material using a shader graph. This looks nice and reflects the scene lighting. I'll create a script that rotates the lighting around the origin for a nice day-night cycle effect. Okay, nice. So I want the player to get resources from mountains, forests, and wheat fields. And I want the player to be able to build on empty tiles. Eventually, I want this menu on the right side to display buttons for all these options. But in order to do this, I need to keep track of everything that can be displayed. This part is a bit complicated, so I'll write code for a custom data structure to keep track of the upgrade tree, what all the buttons do, and the prices of everything. I've created helper methods that we can use as we build the menu and other scripts. These methods can search for the prices of upgrades, different relationships between tiles, and more. Now we can continue working on this window, which I'm going to call the tile window. Okay, this bit is somewhat complicated, and I'll be doing my best to simplify it down, so feel free to ask questions in the comments. I'll create a tile window script that we can use to change these text fields. I'll also create a button prefab, which uses public methods to send information back and forth between the tile window script. Based on the data stored in the data structure, we will dynamically instantiate button prefabs here. When we click another tile or click off from a tile, we will delete all the buttons and reload the content in this window. Great, so now we can click on these buttons, but nothing happens. I'll create new methods in our tile window script that will update this part of the window. So now when we click on an empty tile, we see the possible upgrades appear here as buttons. When we click a button, it displays relevant information, and if we click off the tile or click on another tile, it will change as expected. I'd like to keep working on this, but in order to upgrade a tile, you need resources, and I haven't made any progress in this part of the game. So I'll create a new script called Game Manager that will control the core gameplay and resource management aspects of the game. The Game Manager updates and saves the game values, handles resource gathering, manages population and worker roles. It adjusts resource generation based on time and updates menu elements to reflect the current game state. Workers gather resources like food, wood, and stone, while specialized roles such as tanners, herbalists, and blacksmiths produce advanced resources. Players can assign and reassign workers to different tasks to optimize resource collection and production. So now basically everything works, but there's still tons to add. I would consider this the minimum playable product, and it's actually pretty fun. I knew we needed to balance the game and make changes to the costs of upgrades. To speed up this process, we made a playtesting document and download link with an executable copy of the game included. I posted this to my university game development Discord server. I also had some of my close friends try it out, and Reddit was a great place to find feedback. We'll get back to that later. For the time being, I want these tiles not to look so much like tiles. I want them to start looking more like land. I'm thinking something like Polytopia or Civ. I'll first start by creating a new script to generate a mesh. This script will resemble the water script. First, I'll create a 100 by 100 array of grid points. Then we'll compare each grid point position to all of the tiles. This will determine how the points will be translated. First, I'll raise the dots that are nearby mountains. Then, I'll use layered purlin noise to generate a mountainous texture. I'll blend in the mountains with the edges of the tiles so the terrain looks nice and continuous. It took me lots of experimenting to figure out the best way to handle making a shore. What I ended up doing was, for each point on the terrain, if it was a certain distance away from a tile, I used a linear interpolation function to smoothly transition the height. This involved calculating a point between the current position and a lower position, effectively creating a gradient from land to water. Now that the people have had time to playtest the game, it's time to see what they think. This was a really exciting moment for me. I'd been spending so much time on the game, and yet I spent nearly no time actually playing it. I was hoping for the best, but expecting the worst. Overall, the feedback was super helpful. The feedback was mixed, but for the most part, positive. This allowed me to quickly find many bugs and areas of improvement. One valuable piece of game development advice is to follow the fun, and that's exactly what I plan on doing. Based on the feedback, the incremental aspect of the game was particularly enjoyable. So I'm going to play some incremental games to see what makes them fun and satisfying. By identifying specific elements, I can incorporate similar features into my game. Okay, good shit. I'm feeling good about the game, and I'm excited to keep working on it. Next up, I'll improve the graphics, add a ton of 3D models to the game, make a Steam page, and add a bunch of new features. You can play the demo for free on Steam, and please wishlist the game to support me.